Welcome back then to the Jack of All Gains, Master of None podcast, hosted by yours truly, Joe Yaxley. You may know me, obviously, as the Tradesman's Coach. Those of you guys watching on YouTube, on Spotify Visuals, watching the video version, you're in for an absolute treat today. And if you're only listening to the audio version, then you are missing out, because over my right shoulder, I've got the famous high vis that comes about with me everywhere we record and film. That comes with us. Obviously, that has had an upgrade recently. And over my left shoulder, we've got the hard hat. Little bit of improvisation, but again, I am new to the podcast game, and I'm here to give you value and education. Not look pretty, but we are upgrading the set, which is obviously good. So, episode 2. I want to welcome you all back. Episode 2, we are going to cover a nutrition topic, because again, in the trade and in construction, I feel like nutrition is one of the most talked about and overlooked things, or should not overlooked, but most people are out there. Again, this is going to be real talk. Spoiler alert, there is going to be swearing. Most of you guys out there are eating fucking Greg's and McDonald's and meal deals every single day, okay? Wasting a fortune. So, what we're going to talk about today: does bread make you fat, and how to use carbs for fat loss and increased energy? Whether that be performance at work, out of work, we're going to touch on all things bread, all things do carbohydrates make you fat, because there is a lot of speculation into new diets, new gimmicks, should I say. People trying keto, other diets and bits and pieces, which we're going to come on and we're going to talk about. But carbohydrates have, should I say, a bad reputation, where a lot of people feel like they make you fat, okay? Spoiler alert, carbs do not make you fat, but we're going to talk about it, okay? So, past experience with this, why this came about. I used to be an electrician. My boss used to always talk about, I'm on a diet this week. I'm giving up bread because bread bloats me, bread makes me fat. And I'm sure many of you have heard somebody say it, and if you haven't heard somebody say it, it's probably you who's the person who's saying it, okay? But the myth we're going to bust: does bread make you fat? Because I know it's a question on a lot of people's mind, or a lot of people believe it anyway. Okay, so we will be deep diving into obviously how it aids fat loss, how we can use carbohydrates to aid muscle gain, and how we can aid carbohydrates to aid improved performance both on the tools and off the tools. Again, if we can get more done at work, be more productive, we've got the potential to earn more money, so it is a win-win. So, in terms of hearing somebody say, I've stopped eating bread, I lost weight, okay? So let's unpack what's actually happening. So when somebody stops eating bread and they claim that they're losing weight because they've stopped eating bread, quite honestly, it's bullshit. It's not because they've stopped eating bread why they're losing weight, okay? Carbs, and bread in particular, are related to bloating, okay? I'm going to go on to talk about that and explain it in more detail, and why carbohydrates and bread actually cause bloating and make you feel like you are bloated. But just a little bit of a quick one on this as well. Why carbohydrates make you feel like you're bloating? Because when you eat carbohydrates, they bind onto water molecules, okay? For each gram of carbohydrate you consume, your body holds on to 3 to 4 grams of water, okay? So let's say you eat 100 grams of carbohydrates, you have a big hefty meal of pasta, potatoes, chips, whatever you're eating. Your body will store and hold on to 400 grams of water with that 100 grams of carbohydrates, okay? That's half a kilo just there. So that's why you get that speculation, or I'm bloated, or I weigh more. Say, for example, right, you might have a big carb meal and then step on the scales in the morning. That's why, because you're holding a lot of water. You might hear the word, he's holding a lot of water, he's got a lot of water retention, and that's why, okay? So truth is, bread isn't making you fat. It is the calories. It is overeating on calories that's making you fat. There are no good foods. There are no bad foods. You can lose weight on a Mars bar diet. Yes, you might become insufficient, should I say, is the word I'm looking for, in vitamins, in obviously other bits and pieces, but you can lose body fat eating Mars bars, okay? You can also gain weight on a broccoli diet. If you overeat on broccoli, it is very difficult to do, but if you overeat on broccoli, you can gain weight. So there's no good foods, there's no bad foods. You're not going to be walking down a back alley and get stabbed by a broccoli. Likewise, a Mars bar is not going to be saving you if you're in trouble. A Mars bar is not going to come out and save you, okay? So there's no good foods, there's no bad foods. Putting on weight and putting on body fat is related to the calories you eat, okay? So I'm going to go into a little bit of sciencey stuff here, so bear with, but I'm going to try and keep it as simple as possible. To work out your calories for the day, whether you want to gain weight, you need to be in a calorie surplus. If you want to lose weight, you must be in a calorie deficit. This is called TDEE, total daily energy expenditure. Okay? Essentially, if you eat more calories than what your body needs, you will put on weight. Whether that comes from chocolate, bread, pasta, broccoli, if you eat, I'm going to repeat, okay? If you eat more calories than your body needs, you will put on weight. It doesn't matter what food it is. Okay? Total daily energy expenditure is made up of 4 different components, which we're going to cover in a whole another episode altogether. It is made up of BMR, not BMI, BMR, basal metabolic rate. This is basically the amount of calories your body needs to just survive as a human being if you was to lay in your bed as a couch potato. That is BMR. You've got TEF, the thermic effect of food. So you might hear me talk about protein. Protein is good to eat because your body burns more calories consuming it. That is true. That's the thermic effect of food. Your body burns calories by digesting and obviously absorbing food. You've got EAT, exercise activity thermogenesis. So actually actually doing exercise, going out playing football, lifting weights. That's exercise activity. That's actual deliberate activity. And then you've got NEAT, which is non-exercise activity thermogenesis, is the science name of it. Essentially, NEAT relates to me sitting here shuffling about, fidgeting, walking about, going to get your tools from the van, just day-to-day tasks. That's NEAT. I've gone off on a little bit of a tangent there, but again, if you eat more calories than you consume, whether that be broccoli, whether that be pasta, whether that be bread, you will put on weight. If you eat less calories than you need, you will lose weight, okay? So, I've obviously touched upon carbohydrates already and why it causes water retention and why I recommend if you have a big meal, let's say you go out on a Saturday night, do not step on the scales on a Sunday and moan that you've put on weight, because you haven't, you've put on water. Again, on that, when it comes to weighing people, I very much recommend that you weigh yourself daily or 3 to 4 times a week. If you are weighing yourself once a week, stop. Again, because there's several factors. You may have consumed too much salt. You may have consumed too much carbohydrates, to be 2 simple ones. And you'll look at the scales and feel like you've put on weight, okay? So if you're weighing yourself once a week and judging your fat loss journey on that, stop, okay? Several different metrics you can use to obviously assess fat loss, weight loss, okay? So if we're talking about, obviously, weight loss, you're talking about the number on the scales. The goal for most of us is to lose fat, right? So stop just focusing on the weight on the scales. Think of your body like a budget, okay? So if you overspend, you go into debt, okay? You're going to lose weight. And let's say your debt adds up. For example, whether you overspend on lattes, Greggs, noodles, it's the total spend that counts. So again, just to reiterate the point, if you overeat on Mars bars, bread, broccoli, lettuce, if you overeat and consume more than your body needs, you will put on weight, okay? So, for every gram of carb, we've already touched upon that. For carbohydrates, when you're talking about carbohydrates, there are 4 calories in 1 gram of carbohydrate, okay? So, carbohydrates, just to go into a little bit of detail on them, they are one of 3 macronutrients alongside, obviously, protein, alongside fats. Carbohydrates are your body's most preferred energy source, okay, in the form of glycogen. So this is now I'm going to talk about how to use carbohydrates for energy, okay? So, little bit of science just so you understand carbohydrates, what they are, how they work. So, glucose is the main sugar in the blood. Glucose comes from the food you eat, okay? It's broken down from the food you eat and released into the bloodstream to give you energy. So when you eat carbohydrates, they give you energy. That's what your body wants. Your body wants carbohydrates, okay? When you hear glycogen, glycogen is essentially stored glucose. It's stored in the muscle and the liver, okay? So if you overeat on carbohydrates, your body will store it as glycogen. So that's just a little bit of science. You've got glucose and glycogen. During exercise, again, once you've used up your food stores, your body will then start to use glycogen for fuel, okay? So, for example, if you've got a marathon runner, you might see them refueling on the race, and that's because they've obviously used up their glucose stores and they're now eating into their glycogen and they want to refuel, okay? You might hear people talk about glycogen depleted when it comes to bodybuilding, long distance, ultra running, stuff like that as well. That's when you might hear people say, oh, he's glycogen depleted, where they've used obviously all their glycogen stores, okay? When it comes to carbohydrates, it comes in 2 main stores, or 2 main forms, should I say. You have simple carbohydrates, you have complex carbohydrates. So right now I'm going to break down how you can use the different type of carbohydrates depending on what your goals are, whether it's fat loss, muscle gain, okay? Or just in all round general to aid fat loss. When we're talking about simple carbohydrates, you're talking about more processed food. So donuts, chocolate, biscuits, sweets, energy drinks, monsters, okay, Red Bulls, things with sugar in, sugary things. That's what you call simple sugars, simple carbohydrates. They're going to give you a quick release of energy. When we're talking about wanting more sustained release of energy, we want to go down the route of more complex carbohydrates, okay? So we want to go down the route of more fruit, sweet potatoes, oats, beans, whole grains, like more, should I say, single ingredient foods. You might hear people talk about, I'm going on a single ingredient diet. Obviously, there's a lot of benefits for that and stuff as well. Essentially, it doesn't matter whether you're consuming simple or complex carbohydrates, your body will break them down into glucose and it will utilize these to fuel your brain, fuel your muscles, fuel every cell in your body. Whether you're a Sparky sitting there fitting a fuse board or whether you're a labourer grafting your fucking ass off, your body's using carbohydrates for energy, okay? That's your main source of energy. Utilizing carbs for performance then. So, utilizing carbs for performance. Why do tradesmen need carbs? Tradesmen, we're obviously busy guys, physical, manual jobs. So those of you tradies who are saying, I'm giving up carbohydrates, I'm going on a keto diet, it's stupid, you're stupid. I'm sorry to hit on the keto guys, but it's stupid if you're a tradesman. Can be useful in other areas of life. Personally, I'm not a fan of it, but again, you've got to do what works for you. But if you're a tradesman, you should not be cutting out carbohydrates, okay? You need carbohydrates to sustain performance on your job. Oh, I've hit the afternoon crash at 3 p.m. Okay, what food are you eating? Are you having enough carbs? Okay, that's a consideration to obviously consider, which again is why I think keto is bullshit for tradesmen. You need carbs for performance. Keto basically means you're eating mainly fats and protein. You're not eating carbohydrates, therefore you're relying on other forms of energy, which isn't as efficient, should we say, as carbohydrates. If you want sustained energy throughout the course of the day, you want to be eating complex carbs. Again, like I touched on earlier, you're talking the likes of sweet potatoes, oats, stuff like that. So you can utilize these certain foods to obviously give you a more sustained release of energy, okay? You can also obviously manipulate this with other food groups. For example, you might have bread in the morning with eggs and having a good hit of carbohydrates with protein and fats. Every macronutrient's got its own benefits, okay? You're talking about protein. Obviously, protein, the thermic effect of food, consuming it, burning calories. Lean muscle mass, it helps you build lean muscle mass. Protein is also super satiating, so the more protein you eat, the fuller you'll feel. When it comes to fats as well, we're not going to deep dive into what they do, but they slow down the absorption of food. So again, if you are looking for sustained release of energy and stay full throughout the day, complex carbohydrates, protein and fat, good balanced diet. Again, we will talk about balanced diet. Balance is key. Okay? If you want fast release of energy, let's say, for example, right, shit, I finished work, I'm going out for a run. I need a quick boost of energy. You want to be having simple carbohydrates, something that's going to spike your blood sugar, dried fruit or processed stuff. You're talking like rice cakes, again, sugary snacks, sweets, chocolate. That's going to give you fast kind of release of energy. This is when it comes down to a lot of people think that they can't eat sugary food. They can't eat processed shit. You can. You just have to utilize it properly throughout the course of the day. Okay, you want to manipulate and place these carbohydrates around your workouts because that's going to give you the most form of energy. Again, cereals, things like that. People think they can't eat cereal if they're on a fat loss diet. It can be really well used, placing it and manipulating it around where you need it the most. Okay, for example, some example kind of diet, nutritional plans, should I say, nutritional ideas now. Talking about in the practical world. So let's say you've got a sandwich, whole grain bread, lean protein. That's a really good source of obviously a balanced meal. We're talking lunch ideas. So let's obviously start with breakfast. So first course of the day, I'm going to give you some practical ideas and examples. So get your pen and papers out, lads. I'm going to give you some ideas for your nutrition right now. Okay. So first thing in the morning, I would be going for something like, let's say, eggs on toast or oats or overnight oats are obviously super popular. That's going to be a good balanced good balanced idea of complex carbohydrates with balanced amount of protein and fats. Again, we want that sustained release of energy. First thing in the morning, you want something that's going to set you up for the day, right? There's no point in having a bit of toast or, let's say, a little bit of cereal that's going to spike your blood sugar and it's going to come crashing back down. Lunch, we are talking about, again, people think they've got to cut out bread. No, sandwiches with a lean source of protein. Wraps, bagels, pasta, potatoes, rice, they're all excellent sources. Again, don't moan that you haven't got a microwave on site. You don't need a microwave on site. Again, most of you are like, oh, I ain't got a microwave. I'll have to eat sandwiches. Well, most of you lads are eating meal deals anyway, okay? So quit with the excuses. If you want help with your nutrition, we do have an advanced meal prep guide for tradesmen, okay? It's going to tell you exactly what to eat, when to eat, how much to eat it. If you want a copy of that, slide into my messages on Instagram, message me the word prep, or just message me and be like, Joe, can I have your meal prep guide? And I'll send you a copy of it. It's super, super useful, and it will set you up for sorting out your nutrition, okay? So that's on Instagram or wherever you see me, message me prep and I'll send that across to you. Just to recap, okay, what we've kind of been over, because I know we've touched on a lot here. Carbohydrates or bread does not make you fat. The only way you gain fat is by eating more calories than you obviously burn throughout the course of a day. Carbs are not the issue. It's usually portion size or total calorie intake. For example, you might be blaming bread, but what about the butter? What about the cheese? What about, let's say you're having peanut butter on toast. What about all the peanut butter that you're spreading on the toast? That's usually the issue, not the bread. It's not the meal deal. What about the crisps and the chocolate and the fizzy full-fat Coke that you're having with it, okay? So stop blaming bread. Stop blaming carbohydrates. It's not the issue. You can still eat bread. Like I said earlier, you can still eat bread. You can still eat carbohydrates and lose weight as long as you're in a calorie deficit. You can eat a Mars bar diet and still lose weight. Again, I don't recommend it because you'll be deficient in certain other things. It is possible, okay? So just bear that in mind when you're next having a sandwich and you're slavering, or your missus is slavering on the butter and the cheese. It's usually the total calories that's causing you to gain body weight and gain body fat, okay, not just the carbohydrates. Just lastly, I want to go over how you can implement carbohydrates into your day to fuel and aid performance, okay? So, timing of carbohydrates, what you need to consider, you need to be asking yourself the question, when do I need energy the most? Usually first thing in the morning, so you want to have a good balanced breakfast that's going to help you sustain the energy throughout the course of the day. And second of all, most of you hit the famous 3 p.m. afternoon crash, so that's something to consider. Maybe lunchtime, have a big portion of food, have something that's going to release energy slowly, okay, across the course of the afternoon. Rather than having a cake and a coffee, you might want to have something a little bit more balanced, which is going to help you sustain that energy and make it past 3 p.m. without feeling fucked, okay? In terms of portion sizes, again, I would be balancing it. You don't need to smash the whole loaf. Again, it all comes down to portion sizes. I like to set my diet up. Again, everybody's different, and it's got to be personal dependent to you. Some people don't like breakfast. Some people don't like a big evening meal, but I like to have 3 to 4 main meals, let's say 3 main meals across the course of the day, a couple of snacks. It works perfectly, especially obviously being on the tools. You can have breakfast, you can have lunch, you can have tea with your missus, you can have break time, and then you can have an evening snack. It's perfect, okay? So that's kind of how I would go about approaching all these gurus out there saying you need to eat 7-8 meals a day to lose body fat. It's bullshit. You need to do what works for you. If that's having, I wouldn't recommend it, but if that means having 2 meals a day and that works for you and you can stick to it, have 2 meals a day, okay? Just because Bob is having 8 meals a day and he's losing body fat, it doesn't mean you have to, okay? In terms of people we've worked with lads who have had 2 meals a day. We've worked with lads who have had 5 meals a day, 6 meals a day, or 3 meals a day and 3 snacks. It works for them, okay? So you've got to do what works for you. Sustainability is the key here. Choosing carbs around the right time. Again, if you're training first thing in the morning, I'd recommend either having a big meal the night before or having something simple, some simple carbohydrates before your workout. And then again, focus on more nutrient-dense options. If you're somebody who loves food, somebody who gets hungry very often, make sure you include in plenty of complex carbohydrates for sustained energy release, okay? Plenty of fruits and plenty of veggies as well, lads. They are so important. And if you're a tradesman, you're a fully grown man, you own a company, and you're telling me you don't like fruit and veg, then grow up and try it, okay? I would not recommend Talking about other fad diets, again, just before we wrap things up, I would not recommend keto for tradesmen. I would not recommend Slimming World. I would not recommend Weight Watchers. Brilliant business models. How many people do you know try Weight Watchers and they just keep, oh, I'm starting a diet again. What are you doing? Oh, I'm back on Weight Watchers. Fucking brilliant. You're back on it, which means it obviously, yes, it might have worked. Yes, you might have lost a few pounds, but ask yourself the question, why are you back on the same diet? The goal of a diet is to lose body fat and keep it off right. So if you've got to keep repeating it and you've got to keep trying it, the diet probably isn't working. So again, just to reiterate, Slimming World, Weight Watchers, keto, they are brilliant for losing fast body weight. Again, keto, you're cutting out carbs, so you're going to lose weight. So you're going to lose the number on the scale. Most of that's going to be water. You're not going to be able to stick to it because, again, you're cutting out carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are mainly foods you enjoy. Chips, bread, pasta, and then you can't stick to your diet. So again, what's the point? Okay, so find something that's sustainable and works for you. When it comes to Slimming World and Weight Watchers, we're talking about, oh, you've got to count your food, it's X amount of points, or it's 3 sins for this bit of chocolate, or broccoli's free. It's bullshit. Like I said earlier, broccoli's not free. You can overeat on broccoli and still put on body weight. So there's no free foods, there's no good foods, there's no bad foods. You shouldn't be putting down and saying this food's good, this food's bad, this food's a sin, because it's bullshit. Okay, no food is good or bad. You've got to include the foods you enjoy in your diet. If that means eating chocolate once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week, you need to do it. Okay, again, somewhere where I see a lot of people go wrong is they'll overeat on the wrong foods. They'll say, Joe, I'm snacking throughout the day, but I'm having healthy snacks. I'm having nuts. Okay, I'm having things like nuts, or I might have a bit of peanut butter, and it's like, great, you're having healthy snacks across the course of the day, but this handful of nuts, yes, it's healthy fats, but fats, again, calorie dense, you're going to put on weight. So just because you're snacking on healthy food, still count the calories, okay? Remember, calories in versus calories out is the most important. Just to wrap things up then, so I don't bore you too much, just to recap, bread does not make you fat. Carbohydrates do not make you fat. Overeating on portions, on calories, make you fat. Use carbohydrates to fuel your energy and performance. And remember, it's all about balance. If you cut out all the good foods that you actually enjoy, carbohydrates, that being chips, bread, pasta, rice, if you enjoy those type of foods, do not cut them out because you're not going to be able to stick to your diet. Again, you might be able to stick to it for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. How long before you fall off it and then you fucking fall off the bandwagon? It's pointless. Include the foods you enjoy, okay? It's all about balance. We're going to wrap that up there. Just to kind of recap, if you know somebody who's claiming bread makes him fat, put him on the right track, send them to this podcast, okay? So just to wrap it up, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it useful. That was obviously episode number 2. Remember to like it, whether you're listening on Spotify, whether you're watching on YouTube. Like it, subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, or again, listening on Spotify. It helps. Share it to a mate who thinks bread's making him fat. Tell him it's bullshit, okay, from me. And if you want help with more of a personalized plan, maybe you want a personalized nutrition plan to go alongside your training. Maybe you just want a copy of the meal prep guide. Maybe you just want to talk to us about kind of what we do. Use the link in the bio. Check out my Instagram, Joe_the tradesman's coach, or obviously hit the link in the bio. There's links there to book in a call, see what we do, the results we get, and how we can personalize a plan to you. Again, remember, just because somebody's having 7 meals a day or somebody's having 2 meals a day, there's no right, there's no wrong. You've got to do what works for you. And that's why you need a tailored, personalized program. And you shouldn't be trying things like Slimming World and Weight Watchers because, again, they are very generic and they're not personalized to you. Hope you enjoyed it. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, share it to a mate who needs to hear it, and I'll see you in the next one.